We've had a nice sunny day here in Finland. It's close to 3 o'clock now, so the sun's beginning to set. But I'm not here to talk about that. What I am here to talk about is, well, I guess it's to ask you a question. What type of person are you? Now, sadly, what I'm seeing an awful lot these days is there seems to be a trend towards more and more people who view the world, they view human beings as just competing groups, basically. They view an individual as being part of a group identity. That's what I want to try and say. So the people don't see human beings as individuals. What they see them as is being members of particular groups. Many of these groups are then said to be in conflict with each other. Yeah, so each of these groups have characteristics, and then you as a person, you're immediately pre-assessed, judged according to what type of group somebody thinks that you belong to. You know, so obviously if you're a white bloke like me, there'll be certain people who make an assumption about me because I'm a white bloke. I guess, you know, the other thing as well is there's loads of people, even in the truther community, they make all sorts of judgments about people who belong to different religious groups or ethnic groups. You know, like for example, Jews. Like if I was to say I was a Jew, then that might change people's opinion of me based on, you know, the fact that I've moved from one categorization, Christian, into another, Jew. So people prejudge. There are many people in the truther community who prejudge individuals according to what group they think that they're in. So history is kind of littered with this type of thing. So if you look back to the 1930s and the German National Socialist government, then you know, they obviously had Jews as one particular group. Jews didn't matter about you as an individual. You know, Jews were assumed to be certain things by the regime, and most stupid people, they kind of went along with that. And you know, if you were Jewish, it didn't matter if you know what you were like as an individual. It didn't matter at all, because you were prejudged according to which kind of group that you belong to, an ethnic group in this case. Of course, you know, there are old school Marxists and socialists. You know, they're addicted to all of this stuff. So, you know, they divide society up. You've got, you know, bourgeoisie, capitalists, oppressed workers, and so on. And, you know, so people make their mind up about you immediately based on which category they've shoved you into. You've got the ideology of woke, you know, that's another one, isn't it? So they have loads and loads of categories to sift and sort people into. And, you know, once you're in that category, that's you judged. There's no need to talk to the individual and assess them as an individual. That's it, you're just judged according to whether you're gay, straight, black, white, all these other characteristics that they have, or groupings, should I say. You know, in more recent times you had Pol Pot in Cambodia. You know, if you had gone to university, that was you done and dusted, wasn't it? Didn't matter what you were like as an individual. If you'd gone to university or you were a teacher, that was you done. So can you see what I'm trying to get at here is I'm trying to warn people about the dangers of viewing people as just membership of various groups or tribes, because history shows us that this is a thin end of a wedge that ends in genocide. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that I'm seeing signs of that happening now, even within the so-called truther community. So, next thing to say is, do you know about the 5 stages of genocide? The first stage is classification. Second, which is what I've been talking about. Second stage is symbolization. So You can see this in the truther community. If you hear people referring to, say, little hats, then this is an example of this ideology being articulated. You know, you're basically saying that Jews are all the same, and they're like this, they're little hats, and it's extremely find it extremely offensive and more than a little worrying. You know, because the next stage that comes after that is discrimination, then dehumanization, and then the final stage is organisation, which is, you know, people pulling the triggers, as in the case of the Einsatzgruppen. So if you reject this idea that you know, individuals, all you have to do to know about them is to identify which group they're in, if you're against that, what's the alternative? Very, very simply, what I think you do is you judge people as you find them. You judge people as individuals rather than being members of a particular group. And that's basically what I do. And it's also what I'm urging other people to do in the truther community, is to stop using these lazy tropes and assuming and using words like, well, Jew, for example, because what you're doing is that you're assuming there that all Jews are homogenous. Homogenous meaning all the same. So are we making progress? And I'm afraid to say I don't think we're making progress at all. Humanity's not making progress. And the reason why I say this again is that I'm seeing signs in the truther community that people are just hardwired into assessing human beings as groups rather than as individuals. And this is, you know, it's not good. So let's take some examples. See this all the time. If you come across a podcast or somebody who's written you know, a blog post, and they're talking about Israel have done X, Y, Z, Israel have murdered babies in Gaza, I think from that choice of words, what you're seeing is somebody who has decided or habitually views human beings as being part of groups, rather than as somebody who views human beings as being distinct, unique individuals who should be assessed on a case-by-case basis as individuals. Right, so the next bit is super important, yeah? Israel isn't a person. Israel's a place on a map. And we shouldn't get the two things confused. And if you are getting those two things confused, I suspect it's because your mindset is wrong. As I say, again, what you're doing, in all probability, is that you're viewing human beings as being members of particular groups. And you're basing your assessment of individuals on the basis of what group you think that they belong to. Yeah, so one more time, Israel hasn't bombed Gaza. Israel's a place on the map. Yeah? Israel isn't a person. Israel's a geographical region on the map. It's not a person. So if you don't like what's going on in Gaza, what you should really be talking about is you disapprove of the actions of the current Israeli government. Yeah? So you talk about that. You don't talk about Israel did this, Israel's committed crimes against humanity, because that's not factually accurate, is it? Because as I say one more time, Israel is not a person. Israel is a place on a map. Over the years as well, I don't know about you, I've listened to countless podcasts where you've heard people refer to the Jews this. You know, normally, you know, in the context of Great Reset, or, you know, forgetting the fact that Klaus Schwab, Tony Blair, Macron, They're actually Satanists rather than people who read the first 5 books of the Bible. That doesn't stop them, does it? You know, the Jews this, the Jews that. Again, what we're encountering here is a mindset where you're judging humanity in groups rather than judging humanity on an individual case-by-case basis. So, you know, for people that do podcasts and stuff, what I would say is I just urge you really to use your words a little bit more carefully. You know, rather than referring to the Jews or Jews this, Jews that. I think you can express yourself, talk about the actions of specific individuals. You know, for example, these people that go on and on about Keir Starmer's wife being Jewish, as if that has got anything to do with anything. You know, again, I think what we're seeing is that people that use, you know, phrases like the Jews or Jews this, Jews that, them, by using those words, what they're basically telling you is that they believe that Jews are all homogenous. Homogenous meaning all the same, they're identical. You know, there's a group characteristic, this is what Jews are like. They're all the same, which is, as I've said to you like a few minutes ago, it's no different from what Hitler did in the 1930s. No different. And people are doing it today who are supposedly awake, which is like so sad. So this is kind of more than semantics, you know. Use your words carefully. So if you're talking about Israel, you're talking about a country. You're not talking about the actions of the Israeli government. If you're talking about the Jews, you know, you're talking about people who follow a particular religion. You're not talking about, again, the actions of the current Israeli government, are you? So you need to use your words carefully. If you want to criticise the actions of the current Israeli government, of course you can do. You're perfectly entitled to do that. But use the right words. Criticise the Israeli government by all means, but don't criticise Israel. Don't criticise the Jews, because you're including a lot of good people. You're tarnishing a lot of good people with your criticism who just do not deserve it. I know I've said this before on other videos that I've done, but there's massive double standards here, because the people who view themselves as awake truthers, they're guilty of double standards. Many of these people are Brits, and the British government has done some terrible things. They've murdered 1.5 million Iraqis, countless Afghans, countless Libyans, done terrible things in Kenya, all over the place. Now, how would we like it if somebody started moaning about Britain or British people? I think we would have some argument to the effect that it's not fair. Why should I be blamed just because I'm British for the actions of the British government? It's just not right, is it? Now, what I'm saying is that we need to extend that to people that live in this part of the world that's currently called Israel. It's the same thing. You wouldn't like to be blamed for the actions of the British government, so stop blaming the Jews or the whole population of Israel for the actions of a handful of psychopaths in the Israeli government. Now, something else that's interesting is that I'm doing this on the 6th of November. So late afternoon, so Trump's won, it's been announced over here in Finland. So as most of you know who watch my channel, it's you're clued up, so you understand that they control both sides. It was a choice between Kamala deep state and Trump deep state. So, you know, one of the two sides that they control will always win. In this case, it's Trump. Now, What I think, this is a little bit, well, I don't have any proof for this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is what they've got planned next. We've had, for the last maybe 10 years, we've had the woke agenda being unfurled everywhere. And, you know, obviously it's reaching its zenith now in the UK with the Starmer regime doing crazy stuff, you know, like imprisoning people for expressing their thoughts. So what I think is likely to happen is there is going to be a swing back in the other direction. So I think that the regime, they're going to ditch woke, and Trump's going to be in the vanguard of that in America. And I think once Starmer goes, the next general election, I don't know who we might have. You know, we could have maybe it's Kemi Badenoch or whatever, and she undoes a lot of the woke stuff, or maybe it's something even more radical like Nigel Farage, or maybe it's even somebody like, you know, Agent Tommy Robinson pursuing, here's the big point, pursuing something that looks very, very similar to National Socialism. So socialism basically is technocratic planning. The government not just running the economy, but running your own private life too. And also, as the name suggests, nationalism. So there's a strong kind of ethno-nationalist vibe to this as well. And I think sadly, there'll be many people who buy into this. You know, we already have an awful lot of anti-Semitism, Jew hating in Britain, and in the truther community. You know, if you hear somebody using the word Jew, little hat, what, you know, that's not good, is it? That is not good. Now, the other thing as well that I've seen, again on these, maybe a lot of them are controlled opposition YouTube sites and other social media sites, is this idea of compulsory repatriation. And I think after all that's happened, there's going to be a lot of fools who will support that, who will vote for that. They'll vote to live in a police state where the state is deciding who can and can't live in the UK, and using violence against people. It's very, very easy to solve all of this. What we need to do is embrace natural law and just get rid of the whole system of government. You know, taxation involves using violence or the threat of it to steal people's money in order to transfer it to somebody else. You know, if you had some sort of ethno-nationalist government, socialist government, then basically, you know, it's you're not moving away from this system that's created so much misery in society. What we actually want is true freedom, where you enter into all contracts on a voluntary basis, and you decide how you're going to earn your money, you decide how you're going to spend it. And basically we have a society that respects private property rights, and we don't have legalised theft in the form of taxation. That's the solution, not forced repatriations. So if forced repatriations happen, you know, according to somebody's nationality or ethnicity, can you see where we're going with this? What you're doing is recreating 1930s Germany. Now, I was talking to my son about this today, you know, about predictive programming. And about 6 months ago, I asked you to watch a film called Children of Men. Because in that film, that's exactly what they're depicting. They're depicting the government hunting down immigrants who were here illegally and forcibly deporting them. And obviously that doesn't go down too well with the people who are being deported. So what happens is that Britain descends into like an ethnic civil war down religious, racial, like boundaries. So again, I'm coming back to this point, is that don't be an idiot and stop viewing people entirely on the basis of what classification you've sifted and sorted them into, because this is where this way of thinking ends. Another thing that I want you to watch out for when you're watching podcasts is for people who are trying to rewrite the history of the 20th century. Now, there's been many things that we've been lied to about, but that doesn't mean that we've been lied to about everything. So I've told you on other videos, I actually saw with my own eyes elderly Jewish ladies with tattoos on the inside of their wrists. I've met Jewish people who've had relatives who were killed in the Holocaust. So for me, a big red flag is when you get people who try to say that it's all a hoax, it never happened. And, you know, honestly, it's quite worrying really, because you've had people come onto other people's podcasts and they just say these things, you know, oh, it never happened, the Jews are bad people, they're all bad, they're all the same, they're responsible for all the world's problems, they always have been. And these podcast hosts, they just let it fly. They just let it, don't challenge it at all. So what these people are doing, either knowingly or unknowingly, is they're party to history being rewritten. Oh, and the other one, of course, is, you know, like recently, there's loads on social media about this. You know, about, oh, Hitler, he was just misunderstood. He was really a great guy. You know, like, and again, the problem with this is this ignorance. So these kind of, you know, researchers in the useful idiot researchers in the truther community, if you say to them, you know, do you know about the Einsatzgruppe? They're like, no, are they like some German techno band or something? They're completely clueless. Do you know about the Action T4 program? Completely clueless. So these people, they're very, very, very useful for the establishment, because what they're doing is rewriting history. And what you're supposed to think is, you know, ethno-nationalism, a national socialist police state. Oh, it wasn't so bad. It was really great. Maybe that's what we need now. Hitler was just misunderstood. Can you see the danger of this? This is what's going on now. So when you hear people talking about little hats, when you hear about people who are questioning the Holocaust, when you hear about people who are trying to say that, oh, Hitler was the good guy after all, then I suggest to you that your alarm bells should be ringing, because these people who are doing that are wrong uns. These are people who don't assess people on a case-by-case basis as individuals. What these people do instead is that they assess people according to what group they belong to. Are they Jews or are they not? So it's very, very, very important that we learn from history. Very important that we learn from history. But obviously we can't do that if we then end up denying what happened. You can't learn from history if you're in the business of denying that the real things happened. At the moment I'm reading this book. It's a collection of speeches that were written in the 60s and 70s by the Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And in quite a few of these speeches, Solzhenitsyn expresses dismay about what he's seeing in Britain and America, you know, as I say, back in the 70s. And he feels that at that time we're going down that same path again. And according to Solzhenitsyn, he can warn people as much as they want, but he kind of came to this really unfortunate conclusion that people actually have to experience these horrors before they actually believe it. Now, when was it? A few months back, did some videos about Keir Starmer, and I did warn you that he was going to surprise you with just how authoritarian he was, or is, his mindset is. And I think, without blowing my own trumpet too much, I've been proven absolutely right on that. You know, as I say, sadly, I think free speech in Britain has gone completely as a result of the Starmer regime. For these kind of normie truthers who view, I don't know, Jews or Muslims as just being a homogenous group, and you can kind of know what they're like just on the basis that they are a Jew or they are a Muslim or they are a Christian. What you guys are actually doing is making it more likely that the UK will experience a full-blown police state within your lifetime. And then this is just the way that say, like, karma and natural law works. You know, you've been going on about Israel as though it was a person, when it's just a spot on the map. You've been making all sorts of judgments about the Jews. You don't have anything to. You don't have any, when it happens, you don't have anything to blame. You don't have any. You don't have any cause for complaint. You created it. It's like a fire, right? You're just throwing petrol on that fire. Another just conclusion then is that places on maps don't commit murder. Maps don't create murder. People do. So as I say, if you want to blame somebody for what's going on in Gaza, don't say Israel. Don't blame a point on the map. Instead, blame the politicians who issue the orders, and then the useful, obedient idiots who obey those orders without question, who pull the triggers or drop the bombs. These are the people who are responsible, not a place on the map, or not the entire nation of Israel, not the entire Jewish people. So, some conclusions then, or the main conclusion is this one, right? In the case of Israel, Israel isn't a person. Israel is a spot on the map. And you can't attribute actions or world events to a spot on the map. Similarly, if you look at a particular ethnic group, the Jews, for example, or Muslims, they are not all the same. They are not homogenous. So if you're referring to Muslims or Jews and you're doing it disparagingly, what you're basically telling me is that you believe that they're all the same. And if you don't believe that, then you shouldn't be using that word. You should be thinking a little bit more and using different words. Maybe, for example, criticising the actions of the Israeli government, the current Israeli government. So that's all I want to say today. So I'll move away from the light. It's quite sunny. So yeah, God bless. And look at this one as well. Appreciate the beauty of the world, right? One last thing for atheists. Look at this. You're telling me that all of this was created from nothing. Come on.